Good evening, my non-existent viewers. It's I, TVB. I'm recording this video at 10:09. It's Friday, July 21st. And I thought tonight would be a good night to make like another Skizzo Rambling video. This is the 7th Skizzo Rambling. I should probably make a playlist out of these. I just realized that. Like these kinds of videos where like, there's no like filming, it's just me like talking to the microphone and like, showing you guys some Minecraft gameplay and like sort of just like talking about life. I've made this is the 7th video I've made like of these within the past like year and a half. And I kind of want to do these videos like on a monthly-ish basis. Like not like on a super like consistent schedule by any means. But like, do it on special, like I guess on certain days where I just feel like just hanging out, relaxing, and just like talking about life with you guys. As well as I've been putting this off, like with my last, not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before this past Wednesday, I finally got back to making Would You Rather Wednesday polls, and I made you guys, and I had asked you guys like, oh, would you rather me make my all the films I've seen this year so far, like ranked video from worst to best, like right now, right after I say Joyride, or like wait until like the end of August or early September so I can include all summer films? You guys voted unanimously for just make the video like now, like sooner than later, before I see more movies. So yeah, this video is gonna be something a little different, not like a cohesive like ranking video, like from each individual film from like worst to best, but it's gonna be like a bit of a tier list. I've been weirdly fascinated with tier lists within the past like 2 years, and it's something I've been like, it's maybe shifting less towards like the ranked videos and more toward like tier list videos. Like on my channel, I've been playing with ideas for doing that. But yeah, also with today being July 21st, like yesterday marked two things. Yesterday marked 6 years since Chester Bennington passed away, Linkin Park's lead singer. He took his own life like 2 months after I graduated high school. May he rest in peace. And yesterday I wore my Linkin Park shirt. There was a cookout with the zoo I'm interning at this summer, where they invited like the keepers, or like one of the former keepers at the zoo I'm interning at, like invited us, us interns and the keepers like to their place for a cookout. And I took my thumbnail, like the left half of that is like a year ago from yesterday. Like that was the day I quit my job in Fort Collins. Like yesterday marked, Chester Bennington passing away. I wore my Linkin Park shirt like yesterday to like remember, as like a way to like commemorate, his loss 6 years ago. As well, yesterday marked a year since I quit my old job in Fort Collins at Dogtopia, while the dog daycare I used to work at. I was there for like 14 months, and it still feels weird looking back on it now and just how much things have changed since then. Because tomorrow marks a year, July 22nd, marks a year since I moved out of that house. Like I quit my job at Dogtopia July 20th of last year, and the next day, Thursday, my last like full day in Fort Collins, I spent a day basically just packing up my stuff and getting ready to move the next day. And then Friday the 22nd was when like my family came up from Denver to help me get stuff out of the house, and I moved back in with my uncle. And it's just like, I had to make another Skizzo Rambling video because it's like a year ago. Like if I went back in time a year ago and told like my 23-year-old self that like, because I obviously like I left Fort Collins so I can intern at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo in Colorado Springs, but at the time like I had no idea I would move to Nebraska like for 12 weeks right after that, and get accepted for an internship in Oregon, only to drive out all the way there for 3 days for them to like basically reject me at the door. Which I've talked about that. That's kind of why I took a 2-month hiatus from making videos this year, because I really, after that whole blow, I really needed to just like walk away from YouTube and just like prioritize like myself with like jobs, internships, and stuff like that. I just had a lot of like, I guess I had a lot of adulting to do, so to speak, and I still do to be honest. And like at the time a year ago, I had no idea I'd end up spend an entire summer in upstate New York like what I'm doing now. And in all honesty, I'm still like a year later. I'll be 25 next year. Like, who knows what surprises will come in store? Since then, like, I do plan on moving back to Colorado, like after this internship ends, back to where my mom and uncle's at. But before I do that, like, I'm gonna take some like time off. I'm gonna visit my dad and my sister and my old friends from high school and middle school that you guys might have seen my older videos that I've made on my channel. I'm gonna take like some time again. I'm not too sure how long I'll be back in New Jersey for. Was where I'm from originally. My dad's house is like a 4.5 hour drive away from like the Utica Zoo, which is where I'm interning at this summer. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what surprises are gonna come my way, or all of our ways, until then. And I just pull out my cell phone right here with my tier list. I'm gonna like do my best to breathe. This video is probably it might be super long. Like my last Skizzo Rambling video was like 52 minutes, which I was like, oh man, I really should have warned you guys. This video may or may not be super long, so I want to apologize in advance. But yeah, here is just my very like, here's my tier list for all the films I've seen so far. Like, this year in 2023, from start of January with Megan, I should say, all the way until the last film I saw, which was a Joyride. That was last Wednesday. I have decided, like, this tier list is based purely off of my opinion and from the films I have seen. Like, just keep in mind, this video is subject to change. Like, I've decided to skip Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Like, I've heard praises for it from the critics. It's just the only Mission Impossible film I've seen is Ghost Protocol. I never took the initiative to watch Rogue Nation when that came out back in 2015, so therefore I decided to skip Fallout, and I'm deciding to skip Dead Reckoning. I've been playing with ideas, like, I will watch Rogue Nation and, Fallout and the first 3 Mission Impossible films. I'll do like a whole Mission Impossible week on my channel at some point whenever Dead Reckoning Part 2 comes out. Then I'll get brushed up on I'll get more cultured on Mission Impossible films. But yeah, so if anyone's walking, hey, like, where's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning in this tier list? Yeah, it's because I haven't seen it. But anyways, like, I'm just gonna start with like the way I view tier lists is more like, with it's such an interesting scale because there's like 7 rankings, and I'm so used to there being like, like there's 7 different like categories as to like, from like, worst to best, like, terrible to bad to okay to good to great. 7 is just a very like interesting number for that. So the way I view tier lists, it's like S tier films in my mind are like 9 out of 9 films, which that's a rating scale. That's a score I give quite sparingly on my channel. The film really has to go the extra mile to impress me. So I'd say A tier films. These are like the films I would give like a 7 or 8 out of 9 stars. Like 8 out of 9 is obviously I loved it, and a 7 out of 9 is would mean like I like it enough to consider like it's a really likable film. I like it enough to consider buying on DVD. In B tier films, these are the films I would consider like 6 out of 9s like on my rating scale. These are films hey, they're likable, like they're not great by any means, like they do have like some issues, but I like the film and would recommend seeing it. And C tier films, these are like the 5 out of 9s again. They're definitely like FBF, like flawed but fun. Like you're not missing much if you decide not to watch them by any means. Like they definitely have their issues, but I still like enjoyed the films enough to give them a thumbs up. D tier films, these are like the films that are just like meh, it's okay. Like those are like the 4 out of 9s I give my rating scale. And the E tiers are like the films I disliked, like I flat out disliked, and the F tier films are like the films I hate. Like the dreaded 0 out of 9 score, the 1 out of 9 score, and E tier would be more like 2 to 3, out of 9s. I guess films I just disliked or films that I just found forgettable or disappointing. But yeah, F tier and E tier, these two tiers are definitely the easiest. The F tier film, like the only film I've seen so far this year that deserves like an F rating is Fool's Paradise. Did you see this movie? Good. I'm happy for you. Unfortunately, I did, and it was dangerously boring and horrendously unfunny for a comedy. That's all I'm gonna say about Fool's Paradise. In E tier, once again, only one film I really just like don't like this year is 65. Again, this movie wasn't terrible. I just found it disappointing because I'm a huge dinosaur lover and I love dinosaurs. I've lived and breathed like all things prehistoric for as long as I can remember. And just like 65, like Adam Driver was just very like I love him as Kylo Ren in the Star Wars films, but he's very bland and stoic and just the whole movie's just very forgettable and like a lot of the script makes no sense and it's all over the place. But yeah, D tier. These are again only like you guys can probably tell I'm not super difficult to please with movies. I generally give most movies I see a thumbs up as long as the film doesn't bore me, right? Or like annoy me with the characters or the script. So the B tier and A tier films are going to be, and the C tier films are going to be a lot like bigger. They're going to contain more films than like the D, E, and F tiers. So I guess the only 2 D tier films I've seen this year, the ones I consider D tier at least, are Ant-Man, Quantumania, and Shazam: Fear of the Gods. Man, they're both huge comic book movies that came out this year. From the 2 from DC and Marvel respectively, and they're both like in the F and like the D tier. That is like they're both so just meh. Like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and Shazam like Fury of the Gods. It's just like I wasn't that excited for Quantumania. I was really excited for Fury of the Gods. That was like on my most anticipated films of the year list. But I just found both films just very meh and disappointing. But yeah, C tier. There's 4 films I consider C tier. Again, these aren't like in a specific order from like worst to best. It's just like these are the films I give a C tier, like the solid like 5 out of 9 rating. Renfield, Cocaine Bear, Flash, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Like again, these films they're flawed but fun. Like again, I don't think you're missing much if you decide not to watch these movies. Like Renfield and Cocaine Bear and Flash and Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. Like I actually liked, I enjoyed Flash and, Dial of Destiny despite the backlash that, like, there's some people who, like, hate both these movies with, like, a burning passion, but, like, I enjoyed both films for what they were. Like, I definitely understand the criticisms, but, like, I still enjoy them and give them thumbs up regardless. Like, The Flash especially is just, like, so interesting, like, how polarizing the film was for me in my head, because it went from being, like, great to being garbage, like, from scene to scene. Like, again, I said it before in my review, and I'll say it again here, like, the Flash is, like, Newton's third law. Like, for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. Like, one scene Ezra Miller is great as the Flash, the next minute he's just, like, super unlikable and just uncharismatic. Then one scene the CGI is great, the next scene the CGI looks cheap as hell. Like, the one scene, like, the script, the writing, the dialogue is, like, on point and very clever and sharp and smart. Like, oh, okay, this is how they're gonna reboot the DC, like, EU, with James Gunn taking that project over, I guess. But then the next scene, the dialogue will be like, this is honestly the worst dialogue I've ever heard in a DC EU film. Like, what were they thinking when they wrote this? Like, there's some characters who are just, like, so cringy. Like the coffee shop barista at the start of the movie, especially, I'm like, what? Like, who talks like this? But anyways, so like, but moving on to to B tier. These are films. Like I said, I like these movies, and this is probably the biggest, which I expected when I was preparing this video. I have Elemental, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, Knock at the Cabin, Missing, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, Evil Dead Rise, and Fast X. Like, yeah, I like these movies, and I would recommend watching them if you haven't already. Like, it's honestly a shame that, like, Teenage Kraken bombed at the box office, in my opinion. Like, yeah, it's like with Dial of Destiny and The Flash. Like, I understand why, like, other people didn't really care for it as much as I did. Like, my roommate Mason and I, wait, hey, Mason, do you have any, like, Friday night message to my good viewers? There we go. Wise sage Mason. Barbenheimer. Yes. That's what I saw on Instagram earlier today. Like, oh man, I can't wait for Discount Wednesday of the $5 tickets to see Barbie.
Me too. That's gonna be so awesome.
It's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Like, I think they made the right call in making that movie PG-13 instead of like PG. No, it's PG-13, which makes sense because it feels like Barbie herself was like growing up with like girls who played with her toys as kids. And Margot Robbie, she's one of my favorite actresses, and like, you know, Ryan Gosling as Ken. It's just like, again, it's gonna be, it's the whole movie seems very meta. I'm so here for it. Anyways, like,
Oppenheimer on Monday.
yeah, I'm super psyched for Oppenheimer too. Like wow, 2 big releases in the same weekend. It's a conundrum. It's like, which one do I see first? Like, But anyways, like, yeah, Teenage Kraken, like, I think the film's marketing is what really caused it to bomb as hard as it did, because DreamWorks didn't advertise it, like, at all until, like, March this year, like, only 3 months before the film was released. And they did a much better job at, like, advertising, like, other films they've made in the past, like, you know, like The Bad Guys or The Last Wish, you know, Puss in Boots. We actually just bought Puss in Boots: The Last Wish on DVD from Redbox. It was, like, only $4, but still, it was like, oh, man, it didn't come with the fancy schmancy, like, case covering it, which makes DVDs fun to collect, but hey, it's like $4 for a great movie. I consider that a win. But yeah, I think the marketing for Teenage Kraken is what really caused the film to like flop as hard as it did at the box office, because they barely marketed the film. The trailers gave way too much away. I think that's what caused people not to want to go out to see it. And yeah, again, it's not like great by any means. Like, it's not like it's not, you know, OG Shrek or Kung Fu Panda or How to Train Your Dragon caliber, but I really liked Teenage Kraken. I'd recommend watching if you guys haven't done so already. And moving on to the A-tier films. These are the films I love or really like enough to consider buying them on DVD. I have Joyride, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, Megan, and Scream 6. Hopefully the A-tier list gets bigger than 5 picks by the end of this year. Like, I like these films. I had a great time with all these. Like Megan especially. Like, I was pleasantly surprised, because January horror films are like notorious for being horrible, because January is that month that comes out every year that like where studios just like basically shit out whatever like really bad movies they just want to get rid of. And like, you know, there's so many like really bad movies that came out in January that we don't speak of, but like Megan and Scream 5 that came out last year, though, I think are like slowly but surely breaking the curse. I think I'm reading a little too far into this, but Megan, in my opinion, is like, it's an allegorical like middle finger to social distancing, like using the Megan doll to like represent like talking to people through like a screen versus like actually face to face. And yeah, Scream 6 was really good, and you know, like I'm excited to see like what I've heard, excuse me, that Scream 7 is happening, so I'm really curious to see like what direction they take with this franchise moving forward. And Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Again, this is one film I definitely think is a shame that it bombed as hard as it did at the box office, because it's such an endearing movie, like Honor Among Thieves, and like how it like sort of punked fantasy tropes in a few scenes, and it was just a great D&D movie that we all deserve. Like, I've never played D&D, but I really want to at some point. Like, I hear people talk about D&D, I was like, yo, please teach me and culture me and educate me, because I've never played D&D in my life. And yeah, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, I think it's still the biggest like, you know, film at the box office this year. Let me just look it up really fast. Where's the mighty wiki? Wiki 2023 in film. Wiki. Yeah, it's still number one. The super trustworthy, reliable source that is, you know, Wikipedia. The highest grossing film of the year so far is Super Mario Bros. Movie, and it's made a full like $500 million more than Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did, which is the second highest grossing movie of the year so far. Like, it's because Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I'm just looking at Wikipedia right now, it's like $843 million at the box office, while Super Mario Bros. Has cracked a full $1.3 billion at the box office, which is like, it's really great news for like gamers, you know, because it's like, hey, video game movies are finally like having the success they deserve. Even though the critics didn't really seem to care for Super Mario Bros., I certainly did, and I'm really glad that some other people did as well. Like my friend Danny, I was on the phone with him like before I, you know, moved to Utica for like my zoo internship here, and he told me that he saw the movie in theaters 3 times. And I was like, damn, Danny, I'm impressed. That's commitment. Like, and I also let me just, sorry, my phone's asleep. Okay. Joyride, that was the last film that I reviewed. That was also a great film as well. It's like, it definitely deserves R rating. Like, what has been seen cannot be unseen. With, oh gosh. I'll let you guys watch the movie. There'll be some scenes where like, yep, this is what TV9 is talking about. Hee hee. But yeah, and lastly, again, this is also like the easiest, the two easiest picks for me for S tier. Like, my picks for the best films that have come out this year so far are Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I was just mentioning, and Spider-Man, like, Across the Spider-Verse. The wait for both these movies is so worth it. You know, I do believe that the MCU is past its golden age. Like, I really don't get excited for like new MCU movies anymore. Like, the Marvels, like, will I see it? Yeah, most likely I will, but I'm kind of just indifferent towards it. Like, you know, Captain Marvel is my least favorite out of all the MCU movies, in my opinion. Like, it's not terrible. Like, I know I gave that movie a thumbs up when I first reviewed it, when it came out back in 2019, but now I really, again, opinions, like, there needs to be, like, an opinions expiration date. Like, you can't go back in time to my, like, 20-year-old self and think that I would believe the same way on things I did back then as I would now. Like, you know, people change, like, you know, people's thoughts change and everything. Like, I don't hate Captain Marvel as much as some people do. I just think the movie's okay. And that's my pick for the worst MCU movie. And yeah, there's just been, I look at new MCU movies, I just think the whole, like, franchise is past the golden age, but I was excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and not only did it, like, not disappoint me, like, I expected it to be great, and it was, but it exceeded my expectations, because the Guardians of the Galaxy, what was I gonna say? Like, the only loose end that was untied, like, from Endgame after the whole final battle in that movie was, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy's, like, storyline. And they resolved that in this film, and I was really satisfied to see that. There's just, like, the great action scenes, the signature writing and style from James Gunn, the performances, and, like, you know, I've been really thinking a lot about this movie. Like, I'm not a fan of the phrase, everything happens for a reason, but the fact that I saw this movie, like, during my hiatus, when, like, I saw it, like, this movie came, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out on Cinco de Mayo, like, this past May, and that was a time, like, where I spent, like, my hiatus when I was, like, supposed to be interning at the zoo. I was supposed to intern in Oregon. Like, I think, like, I'm not a fan of the phrase everything happens for a reason, but I think that internship, like, just falling through, my plans in Oregon this past spring falling through, and seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 3, like, it's, you know, during the time I was supposed to spend interning at that zoo, I think is maybe, like, a sign from God or the universe or whatever else that, like, I need to stop, like, you know, I already talked about all my spoilers and thoughts in my last Skizzo Rambling video with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so I won't, like, repeat the same points. Like, I don't want to, like, spoil anything to those of you who somehow haven't seen Guardians 3 yet, but, like, let's just say Mantis, like, says something really wise to Star-Lord in this movie, and he, like, heeds that advice. And I think it's about time I do the same. Just, I've been thinking a lot about where I'm at in life right now, and, like, where I want to be in life. And I've always known this, like, I've been saying this for years, but I'll say it here too. Like, sometimes, like, you know, you gotta take a step forward by taking a step back, whether it's, like, dropping a class during college, or, like, leaving a certain relationship, or, like, cutting out people from your life that aren't really doing you as good. Like, these things, or, like, you know, plans falling through due to reasons that are beyond your control. Sometimes the way to step forward is to take a step back, because, like, yeah, I was devastated when the Oregon internship fell through. I mean, that's why I took my hiatus from making videos this year, because I just wasn't really in a good mental space. But, like, my sister told me on the phone that day I was screwed over. Like, I took a minute to grieve in a hotel room, and she was like, hey, I'm gonna, like, a year or two from now, you're gonna say, thank God that happened to me. And I will very politely tell you, told you so. It's been, like, only 4 months now. I'm honestly saying that now. Like, I honestly, like, Mason's been a super cool roommate to me this summer, and I've been having a wicked time. in Utica, like interning at the zoo here, like so many cool animals. I get to run keeper chats on hyena exhibit like every Sunday and Monday. And I'm planning a very special project for the lions. You know, like most zoos have both species, keep lions and hyenas right next to each other. I'm planning a very special like intern project for the lions that I'm going to present to the lions this week. And I'm going to film it for you guys and post it on my channel. And yeah, just so many just wonderful animals there, and this whole experience just feels very reinvigorating, because I also have had a great time like meeting and like befriending my other interns and the keepers, and like most people at the zoo are just lovely people, and like Utica is like, you know, upstate New York is just so like, the vibe is so like starkly different from New York City, because I grew up like an hour outside New York City. It's like New York is kind of like the California of the East Coast. Like California, like Northern California and Southern California are like two different states. And that's kind of like how I see New York. It's like New York City and like upstate New York are like totally different states. They're very different climates from like what I grew up with. And in a weird sense, like I consider Oregon sort of like the New Jersey of the West Coast, because New Jersey and Oregon are both coastal states where like you don't pump your own gas, and they're both borders with like two of the like super iconic states, like, you know, that are so big and huge and packed with people and full of diversity, and both like in terms of people and just in terms of landscapes. You know, I have California has huge crazy cities like LA and San Francisco and San Diego, but it has like beautiful forests and mountains and national parks with like, you know, in Northern California. While New York City is like, you know, the five boroughs, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Manhattan, and Staten Island. It's like the whole hustle and bustle of the city is like such a huge difference from like upstate New York, where there's so many more forests and mountains. And the fact that like they both have states that are like coastal, like they're bordering them, that like where you don't pump your own gas is just really funny to me, because Oregon's not as like they're a lot more lenient on like, you know, gas and stuff like that. Like it's not like the county I stayed overnight my last night in Oregon, where it bordered Idaho when I drove through that county, whatever it's called, like you pump your own gas at. But in New Jersey, it's like flat out illegal to pump your own gas. Like someone at a gas station, you basically pay them to do it for you, which I consider a good thing, because it's actually really good for a state's economy. And like I was in New Jersey, I visited my dad and my sister for the Avenged Sevenfold concert in New York City like a month ago. And the gas, like, around my dad's place is actually cheaper than it is here in, like, Utica and Rome and New Hartford, like, the area I've been staying in this summer. But yeah, it's just, like, so many new places and people, and I know I'm gonna be visiting, like, you know, once again, my dad and, like, you know, my friends Danny and Shane and, you know, a lot of my old friends from, like, middle school and high school. And I'm really excited to see them and, like, see where like the next adventure awaits from here, because I also have been back into writing lately. Like my routine, like I'm really determined to upload at least weekly this summer. I really would like to upload 2 to 3 videos a week. It's just I haven't been uploading as frequently because like I still DoorDash. Like it's an unpaid internship, and I've been really tight on cash lately, so I still need a DoorDash to, you know, make some bread. My evenings, my days off, come in cycling between like DoorDash and like making videos, of course, as well as writing. And I've been writing a story this summer. I got the idea for my story that I've been writing like while I was supposed to be interning at that zoo in Oregon that, you know, that fell through. And I've been like cracking down on it now. I'm determined to like have this, you know, like first chapter of a novel, I guess, done before my internship ends. Like have something at least presentable to an English professor, as well as listen to Game of Thrones. I started listening to the Game of Thrones audiobooks, like Song of Ice and Fire, because my very old friend Joe, you know, from middle school, like he texted me like a year ago throwing the idea of us like, hey, because he just finished reading all the Game of Thrones books, and he was like, hey, next time you visit Melbourne, you should read all books too, so we can, like, you know, have a Game of Thrones marathon. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I started listening to A Song of Ice and Fire, and it's like, yeah, so far so good. It's like, even before I started listening to this audiobook, it's like, I always knew that I always love that Tyrion Lannister quote, where it's like, you know, anyone who has to say, like, I am the king is no true king. Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, I've been listening to Game of Thrones while playing Minecraft lately, and it's been really nice. Anyways, yeah, so my days lately have been kind of cycling between, like, you know, when I'm not at the zoo, of course, like in the evenings, and like my days off, been cycling between DoorDash, videos, like listening to Game of Thrones and playing Minecraft and, writing that story. And also, and of course, like hanging out with friends and, just being social and enjoying life and all that jazz. And yeah, like, with the other S tier film this year, like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, it's just, God, I can't sing praises for, like, Sony for making this masterpiece enough. Like, I almost never see movies in, like, twice in theaters. I saw Across the Spider-Verse twice in theaters. I'm very proud of that. Like, there's just, both this film and its predecessor, Into the Spider-Verse, they're just brilliant. Like, there's not a scene in either Spider-Verse movies that isn't brilliant. And Beyond the Spider-Verse, like, I already hear that's been delayed, which, again, disappoints me, but doesn't surprise me. Like, I'm dying to see, like, where they're going with this franchise next. Like, Mason, how would you like it if Beyond the Spider-Verse is PG-13? If Sony decided to go for that?
The last one?
Like, if, like, the third installment in the Spider-Verse franchise?
What is it usually?
Well, it's PG, like, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse are PG films, but what if they decided to go for the PG-13 rating for the next film?
That'd be great. I mean, I think they read it pretty well for
Yeah, Across the Spider-Verse, it's a PG movie, like, nothing about it warrants a PG-13 rating. Like, it doesn't, like, not that I particularly care if it was, like, PG or PG-13, but I just don't, like, feel right calling it a kid's movie, just with all the themes and, like, the film's length and the dialogue, because my sister's boyfriend, he told me that he saw that movie with his sister and, his nephews and nieces, and the moment, like, Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy and all the characters started talking, the kids just totally zoned out, because they were, like, little kids. Like, I wouldn't feel right taking off if I was a dad. Like, if I had, like, a 5-year-old, like, daughter or son, like, I wouldn't feel right taking them to see, like, Across the Spider-Verse, because they'll probably, like, just be too confused with the film's script and the themes and whatnot. But I still find myself quoting it, like, that movie, especially that scene where he meets Spider-Man in India, because the zoo, we got, like, Mediterranean food, like, during our lunch break the other day. And there's, like, pita bread, but it's like, but pita literally means bread. So when you say pita bread, you're saying, like, bread. I told my fellow interns and the staff, I was like, have you guys seen, like, Across the Spider-Verse? And they were like, yeah, no, whatever. It's like, and I said, well, there's one scene where they meet an Indian Spider-Man. Miles is like, ooh, I love chai tea. And Spider-Man India is like, chai literally means tea. You are saying tea. Whenever I feel, like, angry or stressed at work, I just think about that quote, and I start giggling, and my grin just attacks my face instantly. I don't know, that scene is just so funny. But yeah, like, I need to, as soon as Across the Spider-Verse is, like, out on DVD, I will, like, keep my eyes peeled like a hawk at DVD stores looking for, like, a double feature, like, of a DVD set for, like, I've only seen Into the Spider-Verse once. I saw that one time in theaters. That's a film I really need to go back to, so hopefully I can buy 2 movies for the price of 1. My DVD collection has been growing lately. I recently bought A Way of Water and Everything Ever All at Once on DVD too, as well as Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Those 2022 films, I think, are destined to be classics. Like, I truly believe that. But yeah, my pick for best movie that came out this year so far is Across the Spider-Verse. My pick for worst movie that came out so far this year is Fool's Paradise. Like, honestly, if Fool's Paradise remains to be, like, if Fool's Paradise and 65 remain to be the 2, like, films that came out this year, that the only ones I flat out disliked, I just won't make, like, a top, like, 5 worst movies of 2023 list this year, because, like, what would be the point? Like, 2023 so far has been a good year for movies. It's just, maybe I'm just a little too easy to please. Like, I feel like I should be a lot more critical and more strict on rating movies, but it's like, I don't really want to, because if I liked the movie, if I enjoyed the movie, like, I want to give it a positive score. Like, is that such a crime? I don't need to, like, watch every movie I see with a super, like, critical lens, which is ironic because I want to be a writer myself. I want to, like, get published someday. So maybe I should start, like, cracking the whip on movies I review more, I guess. I just don't really want to, because, I mean, if I had fun with the movie, I'm gonna say I liked it and give it a thumbs up. Maybe that's why I like The Last Jedi as much as I do, despite, like, every, like, freaking Star Wars fan just like shitting on that movie nonstop, like within the past few years with The Last Jedi. Maybe that's why I'm like one of the very few Star Wars fans nowadays that actually like really likes that movie. Maybe that's why, I don't know, or like Jurassic World Dominion or Godzilla King of the Monsters, or like just think of the films I put like high up on my like, you know, my top 9 movies I like that everyone hates video that I made. But yeah, overall, I think 2023 has been a really solid year for movies so far, and we'll see how things change. You know, now that we're officially into the second half of this year. Like I said, I'm psyched for Oppenheimer and Barbie. It's just I'm kind of stuck in a conundrum as to like which one I want to see first. Though, like, should I wait like the full extra week to see Oppenheimer, or should I see it like you know, maybe I don't know. I think a double day at the movies is not gonna happen for me this summer, unfortunately. Like that's what I did like back in March, like the night I stopped making videos temporarily. Like when I went on my YouTube hiatus was when like it was like Discount Tuesday at the movie theater. I think I saw 65 and a Scream 6 on the same day because it was just a lot cheaper like that day. It's weird, like this is the only area I've ever lived in, like, you know, here in Utica, where like one theater does like a discount Wednesday while other theaters, like, you know, whether it's in Colorado or Nebraska or even like back where I'm from in New Jersey, like discount days are usually on Tuesdays. But yeah, that's why I've started doing like prefacing like my movie reviews with like hey, this is a discount Wednesday review, make it sound a little bit more different, just like, hey, this is just like a review of like a movie. Which I think I'm being way too analytical on some things, but every like I feel like I'm the only movie reviewing YouTuber who doesn't like say movie review in the title of like his movie reviews. I just say these are my reviews for these movies because, like, well, yeah, it's a movie that I'm reviewing. No shit, like, I'm not saying it's a book review, like, you know, because I think everybody knows that like 65, for example, was a movie. Hey, it's not a TV show or a book, it's a movie, so I don't really feel the need to say movie review. Obviously, like, I don't care if like other reviewing YouTubers say like this is like the Flash movie review. I just had the Flash like midnight review. Because I like to preface, hey, I never get the chance to see like press screenings. You know, I just really don't like spending more money than I need to on things. So if I get to wait like an extra 4 to 5 days to see the movie, you know, for a cheaper price in the movie theater, I'm gonna take it. But yeah, just anyways, back to the ramblings, you know, just talking about life. I have like big plans. I did apply for a job at one of the zoos in New York City, like for a seasonal, like temporary position in that place. It's been 2 weeks since I applied. I mean, if they never get back to me, offer me or like an interview, I'd be really disappointed, but I wouldn't be surprised, you know, because the field is just ridiculously competitive. So if I get that job, I'll keep that seasonal gig. Like, I'll live in my dad's house, you know, the house I grew up in. I was, you know, born and raised there in New Jersey. I'll take the train like to and from the city every day and work there like for as long as they need me to until the gig is up, and move back to Colorado after that. If I don't get the job, like, I'm purely thinking out loud on this. Like, this might not happen. Like, I might only be back in New Jersey like right after his internship ends for like 2 to 3 weeks. I might be there for 2 to 3 months or even longer than that. I do plan on, like, if I don't get that position I applied for at the zoo, I'll like maybe find just like a temporary job like somewhere else like in the area and just work that like for as long as I need to. Because I don't know, it's just, I've burned through, like, I'm just being totally honest. Like, I'm not like throwing myself a pity party. This is purely my own mistakes and whatnot. It's like I've burned through like too much of my savings, like, to really afford an entire road trip all the way back to Colorado, like for 2 to 3 days. You know, just money for gas and hotels. Like, it's like I just don't have the means for that in the moment. And like DoorDashing, I haven't really been DoorDashing as much lately because my car has been having issues with its brakes. Like, it's still drivable. It's not like a huge like issue by any means. I just been a little concerned about its brakes lately, which is why I haven't been DoorDashing as much as I used to. Also, like, just little warning to anyone who ever DoorDashes in Utica, people around here tip like shit. Like, so many people here don't like tip the delivery drivers, which is, you know, tipping's a privilege, not a right. But I hope that, I would like to see that change in the area, so to speak. But yeah, like I'll find, if I don't get that job I applied for in New York City, I'll probably like find a temporary job somewhere else for as long as I need, then like road trip back to Colorado like after that. It's like I said, I'm starting to take like Guardians of the Galaxy's 3's advice on things. Yeah, and it's like I'm very, very grateful with how things have been going within the past year. Just tying back to like what I said at the start of the video with like it being a year since I left Fort Collins and everything. It's just really crazy to think like all the things that have changed since then. Like I've only visited Fort Collins like twice within the past year. Because I haven't really needed to visit, like, I guess. Like, it's not that I don't want to see my friends, like, up there, like, when I'm living in Denver, like, in between, like, internships and gigs at my uncle's house. It's just, like, gas is expensive, and so you want to, like, save, those excursions that are, like, notably far away from wherever it is you're living, like, on a more, like, for more special occasions. That's why, like, I'll never understand, like, people who obviously like I don't want to like judge anyone for what they do like on their evenings or on their days off. Like there's like college students or like interns who just like live an hour and a half away from wherever it is they're going to school or interning at, who just go home every weekend. And like, but an hour and a half both directions, like you're using a lot of gas. Like I get it, you have family and friends that live somewhat nearby, but you don't. Do you need to see them like every weekend? Like, why not just save money on gas and just stay in and enjoy the area you're, like, living in for, like, 12 to 16 weeks? Again, I don't judge someone to walk a mile in their shoes. If you're one of those people, please don't feel attacked by me saying that. Like, you do you, that's your personal life. I ain't the one to judge anybody. I judge nobody on this channel. It's just, I wouldn't do that myself, personally. Oh, like obviously I'd still visit like friends, because Denver's like an hour and a half away from like Fort Collins, more or less. But I think the Fort Collins trips are even more special, like in my opinion. Like, they're more special because it's not like I don't drive there every weekend. It is like a more of a here and there kind of thing. Like the last 2 times I visited Fort Collins, I was back in March because my friend from Nebraska, who I met while I was interning at last zoo, interned at the Riverside Discovery Center. She drove all the way out to Cheyenne, Wyoming for her doctor's appointment. She and her brother, who actually was one of my coworkers at Safeway, because I juggled that unpaid internship with DoorDash and Safeway back in the fall. And the freaking so like on the way down, instead of going all the way back to Denver, I decided like let's just stay overnight in Fort Collins because it's like I left the mall in Cheyenne like at 3:30ish roughly, and it was already gonna be dark by the time I got back to Denver. Driving in the dark on a Friday night like all the way down to Denver is a very risky move, especially like on a Friday night because there's a lot more drunk drivers on the road. So I thought I asked my friend Ryan if I could stay the night at his house, and he was like, yeah, sure. So my friend Ryan, he's the only one of my freshman year floor mates that I still talk to on a regular basis. Who I actually like had a friendship with after like my freshman year at CSU, which is ironic because he's a grad student earning his PhD. He's like a full like 11 years older than me. Like he's in his 30s, and I'm like I turned 25 in October. We've talked about stuff like that all the time, so he already knows that. And I saw my friend Kenzie, and I saw my friend Monique as well, who gave me my Switch, my Nintendo Switch I've been playing Pokemon on with for the past like almost 2 years. I took them to the Irish pub I used to drink at all the time when I worked at Dogtopia, last year. Got to know the staff and their customers there really well, and I took my friends there because they moved their karaoke nights from Sundays and Tuesdays to Fridays. And yeah, the owner, like, if he's watching this video right now, shout out to you, man. You know who you are. He remembered me. He was like, hey, Vitas, good to see you. Give me some love, man. And hugged me, and, like, we sang a karaoke night, and the karaoke host remembered me as well, and, like, other customers were there that I remembered, and yeah, that bar was just, like, it was, that and the bowling alley I used to live next to. Like, I worked down the street from the Irish pub in Fort Collins, and I lived right down the street from the bowling alley in Fort Collins. And I would drink there, like, in the evenings, like, on my days off, just whenever I felt like getting out of the house. And, like, I got to know, like, the staff there and their customers really well. Like, obviously, with, like, bartenders and waitstaff, like, it's their job to, be friendly and hospitable like to people. Like they get paid to do it. But it's just like, I'm gonna say this now, when people you meet at their workplace like that, like, you know, when a bartender goes further out of her way to like make you feel loved and appreciated, like one of your roommates, something's not right. Just gonna leave that there. But yeah, went back to Denver the next day. That's where I filmed my derby cover for All Signs Point Lauderdale. God, I fucking love that Dead Remember song. Mason's totally sick of me playing it in the car whenever I drive from places. Because it's been playing that song like on repeat. Since it was in, like, I guess I missed out on the whole emo craze like during my middle school and high school years. So I haven't really been listening to A Day to Remember until like a year and a half ago, and like one of the keepers at the Nebraska Zoo while I was interning there got me culture on so many different bands because she would always play like that kind of music while we were like making diets and cleaning exhibits together and whatnot. But yeah, she was playing like All Signs Point at Lauderdale while driving our golf cart. I hate this town, it's so washed up, and all my friends don't give a fuck. Don't tell me that it's just bad luck, I will not find where I fit in. Like, I was like, what song is this, Sydney? And she was like, All Signs Point at Lauderdale by Dan Remember. I was like, this is a song I need right now. I know 18-year-old me would have fallen head over heels crazy about that song when I graduated high school and was like ready to head off to Colorado to pursue my degree, because that song is like, hey, hating the town that you grew up in and wanting to leave somewhere bigger and better because you're a man with ambitions and plans. I still feel that angsty heart even as a 24-year-old of just wanting to break free from like the place that you grew up in, like, you know, wanting to like find a new place and just be your own, like be yourself completely. Obviously, like I love my family so much to pieces, and I love Colorado Springs and Scottsbluff and, you know, Utica too. Like, I really have loved all the places I've lived in, you know, with the past like 3 zoos I've interned at. But again, it's like, after the internship ends, there's no career for me there. Like, it's not, like, I did get interviewed for paid positions at both those zoos, and I did get, and hopefully I get interviewed for this position in New York City, but they chose other candidates, which, hey, again, it's not like, it's, you know, success isn't final, failure isn't fatal, of course. It's just like, it's been an uphill battle, but I know it's one worth fighting. I just really hope I don't, like, I just don't want to, like, live either in New Jersey at my dad's house or in Denver at my uncle's house forever. You know what I mean? Excuse me, I just burped. But yeah, I think I'm just going to conclude this Skizzo Rambling right here and there. Hope you guys enjoyed my tier list, and again, if you made it to the end of this video, we just hit 48 minutes, like, thank you so much. You totally did not need to listen to me ramble tonight, if you got this far into the video, and I seriously appreciate it. I thank you so much. And I'm probably just gonna, like, go to bed soon, or get back to work on my short story I've started writing for the rest of the night. And yeah, you guys have a good one, and stay beastly.